Have you ever sat down to do something important, and suddenly your mind wanted to do everything else? Your phone buzzes, a car passes outside, someone laughs in the next room, and before you know it, an hour is gone, and nothing is done. In a quiet town in Ohio, there lived a boy named Daniel. Daniel was 16 years old. He had soft brown hair, tired eyes, and a notebook always tucked under his arm. Daniel had one big dream. He wanted to become a writer. Not a famous writer. Not a rich writer. He just wanted to write stories that made people feel something. Stories that made lonely people feel less alone. But Daniel had one problem. He could never finish anything. Every evening he sat at the small desk in his bedroom. The desk was old. One leg was slightly shorter than the others, so it made a soft ticking sound when he wrote. Tick, tick, tick. Daniel would open his notebook. He would write one sentence, maybe two. Then his mind would wander away like a balloon drifting into the sky. He would hear the TV downstairs. He would check his phone. He would stare at the rain sliding down the window. And suddenly, the story inside him would disappear. Just like that. His father noticed. His father's name was Mark. Mark worked long hours fixing cars at a small garage near the highway. Every night he came home smelling like oil and metal. His hands were rough. His back always hurt. But he loved his son more than anything. Sometimes he stood quietly at Daniel's bedroom door. He watched the boy sitting at the desk, pen in hand, blank page in front of him. Mark never said much, but inside his chest, worry slowly grew. Daniel's mother was named Sarah. She worked at a small bakery in town. Every morning she woke up before sunrise. The house always smelled like warm bread when she came home. Sarah believed in Daniel, even when no one else did. He just needs time, she would say gently. Some people bloom late. But time kept passing. At school, things were not easy. Daniel's teacher would ask the class to write short essays. Other students finished quickly. Their pens moved fast. Their pages filled with words. But Daniel stared at his paper. The thoughts were inside him. He could feel them, but they slipped away before he could catch them. Some students laughed. "Writer boy can't even write," one of them whispered. Daniel pretended not to hear, but the words stayed with him, like tiny stones in his pocket. One cold Saturday afternoon, Sarah asked Daniel to walk to the grocery store. "Just milk and eggs," she said. "It will take 10 minutes." Daniel nodded. He put on his jacket and stepped outside. The air smelled like rain. The streets were wet. Halfway to the store, he heard music. A street performer was playing guitar near the bus stop. Daniel stopped. The song was slow and beautiful. People stood around listening. Daniel forgot about the milk. Then he noticed a dog chasing pigeons in the park. Then he saw a man painting a mural on a brick wall. Color spread across the gray bricks like magic. By the time Daniel reached the store, an hour had passed. When he came home, his father was sitting at the kitchen table. His arms were crossed. The clock ticked loudly on the wall. "Where were you?" Mark asked. His voice was not loud, but it was heavy. Daniel looked at the floor. "I got distracted." Mark sighed deeply. "Daniel, life is not a place where you can wander forever." Daniel didn't answer. That night, the house felt quiet. Later, after Daniel went to bed, Mark and Sarah sat in the living room. Rain tapped softly against the windows. "I don't know how to help him," Mark said. "He dreams big, but he can't hold on to anything." Sarah thought for a moment. Then she remembered something. "There's an old man who sits in the park every morning," she said. "I see him when I walk to the bakery. He used to be a professor at the university. People say he gives very simple advice, but it changes lives." The next morning they walked to the park together. Fog rested gently over the grass, and there he was, an old man sitting on a wooden bench. He wore a gray coat and held a small cup of coffee. His eyes were calm, like a quiet lake. Mark explained everything. Daniel stood beside him silently. The old man listened without interrupting. Then he looked at Daniel. "What do you love most?" he asked. Daniel spoke softly. "Stories." The old man smiled. Then he reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out a small, smooth stone. It was round and gray. He placed it in Daniel's hand. "Every day," the old man said, "sit down and hold this stone. Just hold it and write one sentence." "Only one." Daniel blinked. "That's it?" The old man nodded. "One sentence that you truly see in your mind. Not two, not five, just one. If your mind runs away, bring it back." Like guiding a small dog with a leash, Daniel looked at the stone again. It felt warm in his palm. That night, Daniel sat at his desk. The room was quiet. Rain tapped against the window again. He held the stone. He opened his notebook. His mind tried to run away. It thought about school. It thought about the phone on the bed. But Daniel remembered the old man's voice. Just one sentence. So he wrote. The street was empty, but the light in one window was still on. Then he stopped. That was it. One sentence. The next night, he wrote another, and another. Some nights it was hard. Some nights he stared at the page for 10 minutes. But he kept holding the stone and writing one sentence. Slowly, something strange happened. The sentences began to connect. 2 became 3. 3 became a page. Daniel's mind still wandered, but now he knew how to guide it back, like bringing a kite down from the sky. Weeks passed. One afternoon in class, the teacher gave a writing assignment. Daniel took a deep breath. He held the small stone inside his pocket. Then he began to write. The words came slowly at first, then faster, then faster. When the bell rang, Daniel was still writing. The teacher picked up his paper. She read it quietly. Then she looked up with surprise. "This is beautiful," she said. The room went silent. For the first time. No one laughed. That evening, Daniel ran home. His father was washing his hands at the kitchen sink. Daniel placed the paper on the table. Mark read it slowly. Then he looked at his son. His tired eyes softened. "I knew you had it in you," he said quietly. Daniel smiled. Not a big smile, just a small one. The kind that feels warm inside your chest. Years later, Daniel would write many stories, but he never forgot the small gray stone, because sometimes the biggest dreams don't start with big steps. Sometimes they begin with something so small, most people don't even notice it. Just one quiet sentence, written on an ordinary night.